Hello enthusiasts, we've covered Cedar Point, Kings Island, and even Six Flags Magic Mountain, but now it's time to cover a brand new theme park in this series. Now there's a lot of different amusement parks I could have chose for this series, but the one I want to choose this time in this episode is the one I was most recently at, and that being Canada's Wonderland. Oh, my bad.
Canada's Wonderland.
I guess I should probably explain what this is entirely, I guess, so here we go. So basically, this series is me determining with an educated guess, which is a hypothesis, by the way, for all you smart ones out there, can we ride roller coasters without a restraint? A little bit of a warning for you, most of them are impossible, but don't tell anyone, it's a spoiler. Yeah, those restraints are out of here, like out of the ballpark out of here. Remember, the rules are that you cannot grab to any part of your chair, you're just letting gravity do its thing. And a lot of times, gravity does not play nicely. Let's begin.
Please enter the seat directly in front of you. As with any driving stunt, safety first.
The first ride we have on our list is Backlot Stunt Coaster, one of my favorite rides to find at a Cedar Fair park. At first, we might not think Backlot Stunt Coaster is doable because of that 40-mile-per-hour launch, but I think what comes after it makes it doable. Since we're gaining speed when we go into that 40-mile-per-hour launch, it's pushing us into our seats, and that's only magnified when we go up that triple upwards helix because we're being banked to the right. I think you'll keep the momentum of you being in your seat as you go through that wave turn, just be careful here when it pops up a little bit, and when it transitions from left to right really quick like that. I've ridden Backlot a lot of times, and based off my experience, I think if you're prepared to ride the ride with no restraint, I think you're able to do it. And good news is that if you do fall off, you're never too far off the ground with this ride, so I mean it's still gonna hurt a lot, but I don't think you're gonna die on it. So here's my poor man's tier list, all located in Google Drawings of course, with alive but hurt, and of course dead. Just like what I did with Kings Island, I'm putting Backlot Stunt Coaster in the alive but hurt category. I think it can be doable, but it might hurt a lot.
If you think that was scary, now you have to do it all over again! Backwards! Oh!
I don't think this ride's gonna even be possible before it even really starts. Since it's a Vekoma boomerang, you're starting off the ride being pulled up that lift backwards. And for 9 out of 10 people, I'm pretty sure they're just gonna tumble out of it, smack their head on something, they're gonna bleed out, and then die. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the bat into the dead category. Yeah, I don't think it's doable.
The dragon has awakened.
Scream as the dragon wraps you in its coils.
When it comes to Dragonfire, it's very interesting to look at because I'm pretty sure you can make it through at least halfway through the layout despite it going upside down multiple times. For the best survival rate, I would say sit in the middle of the train so you're not hanging over the first drop or getting whipped over it in the back. You'll have plenty of speed to make the loops, with the speed combined with the forces of the loop keeping you in your seat. But what's worrying me is what comes after the vertical loops. I'm not sure if you're gonna make it through the turnaround, not really sure. I've never done this really before, but 15 likes and I'll do it IRL. But what I do know for sure is that you're not making it through those corkscrews. Some could say that you're not too far off the ground if you fall out and you could die, but no, you're gonna die. So unfortunately, I'm putting Dragonfire into the dead category.
On a wild new jet coaster that shatters the thrill barrier. On Top Gun, now flying at Paramount Canada's Wonderland.
Unfortunately, I don't think this one is doable. You can make it to the top of the lift hill, but that's about it. If you're sitting close to the front, you'll probably just slip out here. If you're in the middle towards the back, you'll just slip out at some point during the first drop. As much as I'm a fan of this ride, unfortunately, I have to put it into the dead category. The Fly at Canada's Wonderland has a really interesting story to tell. The Fly is a wild mouse type roller coaster with those sharp hairpin turns, but luckily you can just brace yourself against those side rails to keep you in. Honestly, the Fly doesn't even go through those turns that fast, so it's nothing really to worry about. But speaking of worrying, there is something on this ride that does worry me. If it wasn't for this one singular moment, you could probably have made it through the entire layout of the Fly. After going down the first drop and going back up to the top of the hill, it's here where you will encounter a trim brake. And unfortunately, it trims. But I have good news. If you're sitting in that second row when the train hits, you're just going to come into contact with the row in front of you. And then you have a couple seconds to get back into your seat before it turns, and even when it is turning, it's moving at a very slow rate. So if you're quick enough, you should be kinda okay. So to review, if you're sitting in the second row and you get into your seat fast enough after the trim, the Fly can be doable, but it will still hurt because you're coming into contact with that first row, so it's a good candidate for the alive but hurt category. But otherwise, if you're sitting in the other row, you're probably going to end up in the dead category, so I'm going to put Fly between alive but hurt and dead because it kind of shares both similarities. So I'm going to put it right here. Ladies and gentlemen, sound the alarms. I think I found our first roller coaster that can go into the Alive category. Ghoster Coaster is an opening day attraction here at Canada's Wonderland, and it's a family wooden roller coaster, which is good for us because that usually means we can ride it without a restraint. Just a normal family roller coaster that's not designed to send you flying out of your seat, which is good for us because that means we can put it into the Alive category.
I'm at the go!
Just like the Fly, Mindbuster has just one spot that really worries me a little bit. Mindbuster is chock full with all these elongated airtime hills that will be sure to keep you in your seat. But just like the Fly, there's one spot on the ride that just worries me a little bit. I just don't know how to feel about this one hill right here. I just feel like with this hill right here, you're gonna float out of your seat, and it's really unfortunate because the rest of the ride looks so doable. Just unfortunately, the airtime looks a tad too intense to keep you in your seat, so I'm gonna have to put Mindbuster into the dead category. This makes me sad.
The Silver Streak does have its drawbacks, but please try the Marmalade.
What we have here is a family inverted roller coaster for all ages, but the problem with this one is that it's inverted. And due to it being inverted, it's a lot easier for you to slip out. I'll keep the POV rolling so you can make your own judgment as I explain mine. The ride isn't that intense, so I think you can make it to the end without falling out. Just be very careful when you're sitting down. Until you make it to the end, when the train will stop in the brake run, but you will fly out because of inertia. Honestly, you're not going too fast at that point, and you're like 4 or 5 feet off the ground, so it's not really too bad. You will survive, it's just gonna hurt. So we can go ahead and put Silver Streak in the Alive but Hurt category.
Snoopy, get out of here!
Snoopy's Racing Railway is one of the best family coasters I've ever ridden, and it's about to get a lot better because it's doable without a restraint. Since it's a family coaster for all ages, it's not too intense, so it's allowing us to stay on our seat at all times. Which is pretty awesome for us because now that adds a second coaster we can put into the Alive category.
Where you going?
Home.
Where's home?
The White House.
It's time for your flight on Thunderbird.
If you're getting forced to ride a roller coaster at Canada's Wonderland without a restraint, but you get to choose your ride, I would go with this one. Now when it comes to speed and forces, Thunder Run is really tame with it, which it should be because it's a family coaster for everyone to ride. The main gimmick with the ride is that it's in complete darkness, which makes it feel a lot faster than it already is. However, on one of my rides, the work lights were on and I recorded this POV of it. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Thunder Run really doesn't do anything with its layout, which is good because it was designed that way. It was supposed to be like that, but it's also good for us because now we can put it into the Alive category. Time Warp at Canada's Wonderland has quite a different type of restraint. Since it's a flying coaster, it requires a different type of restraint than most normal roller coasters. When you enter and exit the ride, the restraint system lifts up behind you. After that, you're laid face forward so you can traverse the flying coaster layout. Unfortunately, this ride is going upside down, and without that restraint behind you, you will be falling out. Although I do enjoy this ride a lot more than others, unfortunately I have to put it into the dead category. We're running out of spots.
The most awesome roller coaster ever is now at Canada's Wonderland, but there's one thing missing. The track.
Vortex at Canada's Wonderland is one of the best roller coasters the park has to offer, and unfortunately the best roller coasters seem to be the most intense ones there, and most intense usually means in the dead category. The ride doesn't let up a single second throughout its entire layout. From start to finish, it is full throttle. Now these aero suspended coasters always have a surviving chance because when you're swinging with the turns, you're always being pushed into your chair and there's not really that much lateral movement going on with you. However, when I did this with the Bat at Kings Island, which is an exact clone of this ride, I put it into the dead category. And this ride is described as an even more intense version of the Bat, so I'm gonna go ahead and put it into the dead category again. Wild Beast is very similar to Mindbuster, both wooden coasters, both opening at the same time, and both having the same outcome. Although Wild Beast isn't one of the most popular rides at Canada's Wonderland, it still has a few tricks up its sleeve to get you out of your seat. And what I mean by that is that I saw this moment right here and thought, yeah, this isn't happening. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and put Wild Beast into the dead category once again. The final roller coaster we have on our list at Canada's Wonderland is Wonder Mountain's Guardians, a roller coaster / dark ride hybrid. And I don't know about you, but I think this one can be doable. Make sure you sit down in one of those frontward facing rows so you don't slide out when you're going up the lift. The drop on this ride is really shallow, and since you're going forward if you're sitting in the frontward facing row, you should be okay with that outside portion. Then the rest of the ride acts like a dark ride, so you're all good there. Until you make it to the end where the drop track is. Now before you say it isn't possible, think about this. If the drop track falls at the speed of which gravity gives it, should you also also fall down at the same rate of speed because you're both being pulled down by gravity. So you really wouldn't be like floating in the air really. So you just lay back in your seat and you'll be okay. I guess this would hurt a little bit, so you know where it's going. It's going right into the Alive But Hurt category here at Canada's Wonderland. And that is it. We have covered all 18 roller coasters at Canada's Wonderland, put them in the Alive But Hurt, and of course the Dead category, which is covered up by other roller coasters. But here is your list. Post-editing coasters every day here, I may have forgotten to do Yukon Striker. Let's do that. And just to clarify here at the end, please don't take this video seriously. Sometimes people watch this series of videos and get a little upset because I say something stupid like Backlot stunt coasters going into the Alive But Hurt category. Just remember, I'm a 17-year-old child with no knowledge of the laws of physics. This video is for goofs and giggles only. Anyways, I gotta wrap this up because tomorrow I'm gonna be at Carowinds and I don't want to miss that. So thanks for sticking around to the end if you did, and just thank you.